Aside from wearing fancy tiaras and assenting to laws, the British monarchy serves no purpose to the government and expends far too much money. Charles has no claim to moral leadership, negating any argument that the monarchy remains important as a sober ceremonial force in society. The same statement from Buckingham Palace announcing the death of Queen Elizabeth II on Thursday declared that her son Charles had succeeded her as king. And just like that, this unelected man became the head of state for millions around the world. The former Prince of Wales, whose life has been riddled with controversy, is now the strongest argument for ending the archaic institution of the monarchy. He now assumes not only the throne but becomes the head of the Church of England, another inherited role that should be discontinued. Hello and welcome to Royal Scandal. Please do well to like, subscribe, comment and turn on the notification bell so as not to miss out on any news updates. The Queen's demise ended a reign spanning 7 decades and the terms of 14 U.S. presidents and 15 British prime ministers. She was heir to, and in turn passes on, a chain of rule defined by the brutality of the British Empire as it conquered and exploited people around the world. As a British-born Iraqi who grew up in London, it still pains me to visit the British Museum and see what was plundered from the nation during a ferocious colonial rule. Charles, too, has benefited from this self-interested and abusive conduct, and some of the most odious royal traditions continue under him. For starters, in a country suffering from worsening inflation, a collapsing health service and rising poverty, King Charles III and his family will still enjoy an annual payment from the British government known as the Sovereign Grant. The grant cost British taxpayers $100.12 million in 2021 and was further increased by $31.67 million over the next 2 years to help cover a 17% rise in spending by the royals. The grant has been used for a variety of items, from the upkeep of many palaces to more than $37,000 for a chartered flight for Charles to attend a James Bond movie premiere, despite his years of pro-environment advocacy. Playwright Lin-Manuel Miranda's famous line about the British monarchy in the age of Alexander Hamilton remains true. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. Despite this guaranteed income from taxpayers, Charles has reportedly invested millions in offshore tax havens. According to a set of leaked documents known as the Paradise Papers, The Guardian reported that Charles had invested private money in a Bermuda-based sustainable forestry firm. Given his environmental stances, the revelation sparked allegations of a conflict of interest. Charles's investment team said, however, that he did not have any direct involvement in the investment decisions. In June, the Sunday Times reported that Charles had previously accepted $1.16 million in cash for his foundation in a suitcase, part of $3.48 million in total, from a former Qatari prime minister. The charity was later found to have accepted millions from Osama bin Laden's family as well. In February, Scotland Yard announced a probe into the circumstances under which an aide to Charles allegedly accepted donations to a foundation set up by Charles from a Saudi national in exchange for help to obtain British citizenship and a knighthood. Clarence House once again said that Charles had no knowledge of a cash for honours scheme. On political matters, though the British monarch is supposed to stay strictly neutral, Charles's prince lobbied the British government for various policy shifts through handwritten letters that were dubbed the Black Spider Memos. The letters were obtained by The Guardian after a legal battle. A spokesperson for Charles responded that he was only raising issues of public concern and trying to find practical ways to address the issues. The memos include a letter to then Prime Minister Tony Blair urging a change in herbal medicine policy from the king, who later went on to set up an alternative medicine company. Charles said at the time that Blair had asked him for his opinion on new European Union rules on the products. Other of his lobbying efforts were far more sinister, including one letter to Blair expressing concerns that British troops didn't have the necessary resources while waging the Iraq War, which had already claimed thousands of Iraqi lives. In the modern world, placing such power in an unelected individual can't be a birthright. For a country that claims its parliament is one of the oldest continuous representative assemblies in the world, having an unelected monarch marred with controversies as head of state is by no means democratic. Charles also has no claim to moral leadership, negating any argument that the monarchy remains important as a sober ceremonial force in society. Charles famously engaged in an extramarital affair with Camilla Parker Bowles while being married to People's Princess Diana. He now assumes not only the throne but becomes the head of the Church of England, another inherited role that should be discontinued. Of course, the arrogance of Charles presuming to be a religious figure was passed down for generations within the British monarchy. The Church of England was first established because in 1534 King Henry VIII, frustrated by Catholicism's prohibition on divorce, established a new branch of Christianity, made himself the head and promptly permitted divorce. Without Henry's entitled precedent, Charles would not have been able to divorce Diana and still have a claim to the crown. When you add in the treatment of Prince Harry's wife, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and the behavior of Charles's brother Andrew, the standing of the British royal family is only further degraded. To expect us to instantly refer to Charles as His Majesty, as if he is automatically a man of dignity, is laughable. The monarchy should have ended years ago. With Charles at the helm, it most certainly should end now. By now, the British monarchy ought to have been put into hospice care. It would, at the least, be a merciful end to a spent, vacuous institution that has revealed itself to be a dying artifact of a merciless, imperialist past that should be buried, once and for all. The wise citizens of Barbados, among others, have had their fill of the traveling colonial circus. More importantly, they are no longer content to forget or forgive the conquering, plundering, and crimes against humanity committed in the name and profit of an English king or queen. Instead, they have severed their once binding ties with the so-called motherland and are demanding restitution from the white plantation owners who stripped them, by lethal force, of freedom, independence, and agency to govern their lives and futures. Additionally, the British royal family is not involved in political aspects of the government. Even though the Queen was the head of state, she did not exercise any formal power herself. The monarchy operates under the guise of wielding political power while the powers are actually exercised by prime ministers on behalf of the crown. Ultimately, Queen Elizabeth was a non-political figure and the monarchy system merely symbolizes out-of-date British ideals from the past. Few countries in the world even have monarchies in the modern day, since it results in an extremely high cost of living. The British monarchy costs nearly $345 million per year, and nearly one-third of that comes from the citizens through tax. Furthermore, the monarchy did nothing to earn the status of being bowed down to. Citizens do not owe the monarchy anything. The monarchy helps instill a hierarchy among otherwise equal citizens, where familial status, lineage, and connections determine one's status. England essentially labeled a family as superiors with no other reason than their bloodline. Ultimately, the system of monarchy is oppressive and obliterates fundamental ideals of liberty and equality. At this point, the monarchy only exists to honor centuries of British culture. Because the monarchy is politically useless, raises the cost of living in England and intrudes on citizens' freedom, it's time for Britain to divorce itself from this outdated institution. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.